If you've not, please do so because it must be on record. I'm Bob Tanner. The other board members are Scott Calhoun, John DePlacido. And we have an alternate now tonight starting. Name is?
Rich Hauk.
Rich Hauk and Charles Fott. They'll be alternates now. I'd like to introduce the following members. We have Matthew Puz, Zoning and Development Officer, Julie Maggio, Assistant Zoning and Development Officer, Jeremy Toman, Board Solicitor. He will be hearing the solicitor for the first two cases, and then Dave Rhodes will hear the third case up here with us. And then we have Tamara Doxey, Court Reporter. After the presentation by the appellant, the board will hear from those in question of the appeal, those in favor and those opposed. Any documents or evidence that's presented must be kept for a period of 60 days for our records. And after all presentations are made, the board will recess. We'll then reconvene and make our decisions. We have up to 45 days to render a decision, but they're usually made this evening. If you do not care to wait for the decision, you can call the zoning office in the morning after 8:30. I'd now ask if everyone please stand to be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do. Thank you. So we'll take the appeals in the order which they appear. Ask whoever come up, please stand at the podium, only one person talking, and state your name and address into the microphone. Appeal number 24-12, Ellen and Thomas Kushar for property located at 5990 Pebble Creek Drive, seeking a dimensional variance for the combined side and rear yard setback for an addition in the R1 single-family residential district.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please state your name and address and tell us a little bit about why you're here.
Sure. Thomas Kuchar and my wife Ellen. We moved to the area a couple years ago to be near our daughter and her family for retirement, and love it in Erie. When we purchased our house, it had an existing patio and pergola as noted in your documentation. And having used it for these several years, noted that it's difficult to get up and down from the house, which is about 20 inches, 3 steps to the outside, plus the pergola doesn't provide any cover. So we decided we would have desired to have something that's at house level for eventual walker wheelchair that we can imagine might be a possibility in the future. My wife's already having some difficulty with walking. And so we had sought out a contractor to give us an idea of building a deck and partially covering that deck to provide us, again, the ability to be outside and the comfort of easy access. And so also the dimensions of our proposed change are roughly the same, within a foot of the existing patio and pergola. And so we would hope that we would be able to make that change and move forward and enjoy the area.
Okay. From looking at it, it says you're proposing a 15-foot by 25-foot-6 deck with a 15-foot by 16-foot covered portion.
Yes.
So it looks like, it's a deck instead of a patio.
Correct.
So Matt, it exceeds the footprint by 1 foot approximately, according to what's written. It was 14 by 26, now it's 15 by 25-foot-6.
Yes.
Okay, so, what's triggering this is the fact that patio at grade, no setback requirement. A deck, there is a setback requirement, right? So right now, where it shows a canopy that's out 14 feet, was that a permitted structure, or was it not required because it's detached? I should ask, is the canopy attached to the house?
It was. We have since removed it, but
Okay.
it was attached to the outer part of the house.
So,
It was actually 15 feet.
so was the canopy permitted?
Yeah, it's shown on the survey.
Where's the survey that's here with the canopy and brick patio highlighted? Who generated that? Was that something that they provided, or?
Yeah, did you
Yes.
pull that one?
Yeah.
You
We
provided.
provided, we do have a full survey.
The as-built survey is something that you paid for and provided?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we moved in.
So it showed there, but you don't necessarily have it in your documents? Is that
Correct.
true?
Correct.
So is it fair to say, if I flip back to the building permit, so it's fair to say the canopy was probably put up without a permit?
We could double check the file. I apologize. I don't have the zoning file on me.
Okay. I'm looking at the original, and it was certainly not on there.
Yeah, I would, yeah, I apologize. We should have the file.
Yeah, no problem, just trying to figure out if it was permitted, you know, if it was, you know, somewhat grandfathered, or possibly, portion of it. So basically, what you're looking for is to keep essentially the same size, 1 foot deeper, but elevating it into a deck.
Well, from 1 foot deeper than the patio, the
Yes.
pergola extended out another foot. So the pergola was 15 feet out.
So you're in the same place where the pergola was as far as depth from the house?
Correct.
Understood.
And the same, actually, it's a foot narrower width.
Can you describe your lot? Is it, my understanding is it's a corner lot?
Corner lot, yes.
And so you have two streets that are.
Yeah, 2 streets, and it's on the western side of the house.
And that's what is creating the issue, correct, for setback?
Yes, and with corner lots, you're allowed to have the side and rear have to sum up to, in this case, 37, with 7 being the smallest one could be. So after looking at the proposal, the sum comes to 27.2 feet. So, yeah, that's what's triggering the variance.
So I see you have some letters from some neighbors here.
Yes.
Am I correct in the 5500 River Run Drive is the dwelling directly behind you?
Correct.
Correct, in the direction that we want to make that construction.
And the one on Pebble Creek Drive, 5980, is the one directly to your north? Yeah, so your two adjacent affected neighbors,
Yes.
okay? And the pergola was there when you purchased the property?
Yes.
Just curious.
And there's really no other place where you can put this type of structure on the property, just given the configuration of the lot?
Not really, because the only other way legitimately would be out towards the road, and there's trees there. Yes.
Okay, John, any questions?
So the deck extends all the way from the double door and all the way to the, where the house comes out from the main.
Correct.
And that'll be the range.
Yeah, I mean, not quite to the end, you know, we inset it a little bit from the gutter.
And all of it will be under,
I'm sorry?
all of it will be undercover.
No, only a 16-foot portion of the 25 would be covered for 2 reasons. One, it's impractical to fully cover it and meet up with the existing roofing. Plus, we wanted some deck open for sun and grill.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Scott?
So it's basically a deck?
This sits along the back of the house. This was the only raised canopy. This is open deck. Sits in the same orientation that that. Jeremy.
And it's all open-sided, right? There's nothing, no walls.
No walls.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have for you right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tanner. So I was taking a look at the county records. The county records actually does not show the canopy, so to me, that indicates that the structure was not permitted. The county tends to not assess a structure if it doesn't have a permit. Basically, if they don't know about it, they can't update the records.
Okay,
So just from what we have in the packet, I would say it was not permitted.
okay,
We will verify.
okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this?
Thanks, Julie.
Yep, please come on up.
Good evening, my name is John Nygaard. I'm the Pebble Creek HOA Board President, and I'm just here to lend support for the project. It would beautify the property. He's in good standing with the HOA. It's just win-win for everybody. So I just wanted to put that out there, that from an HOA standpoint, it doesn't do anything but make the entire area better, and it, like I said, it beautifies the property.
Okay, could you state your address for the record?
Yes, 6009 Pebble Creek Drive.
Okay.
And it's in the record book back in the
Okay,
back.
perfect, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Are there other houses that have similar improvements in the neighborhood?
Not to my knowledge, the exact structure that he wants to build, but I mean, there have been several in my tenure, several houses that have added to their structures with an additional deck or a more elaborate porch and that kind of thing, and I've approved them all because, like I said, it beautifies the property, it brings the property values up. We have pretty good neighbors here, they're all in good standing, so the board has approved everyone that's come across our email.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay,
Mr. Tanner.
yes.
So the answer to the questions, we have the permit file. There's only one permit on record. It's for the original house. It does not show the canopy. So because of that, it would not be considered a non-conforming structure since it wasn't placed there legally.
Okay. Okay, appeal number 24-13, Eden Center LLC for property located at 2910 Sterretania Road, seeking a parking variance for a change of use to a daycare center and professional services in the MU1 Neighborhood Mixed Use District. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Pavlov. I'm the project manager of the Eden Center located at 2910 Sterretania. Just wanted to give you a little history of the property. It has been in existence since 1938, and it was previously known as Mount Clair Elementary School, which closed in the 1970s. It then became Montessori Children's House of Erie, which was bought in 2004 by Montessori Regional Charter School. It was empty for many years after Montessori left at the end of 2018. While vacant, the building and the land suffered significant wear and tear. Although the building was unoccupied, the community continued to make use of the land. For 86 years, the property was the cornerstone of the surrounding neighborhoods, serving as an open green space. The green space is a community asset. It is a place where children of all ages and families go and use the grounds, the playground, as well as the t-ball area, and they just use the whole center. I have been a lifelong resident of Mill Creek Township, growing up in a neighborhood behind the old Kmart Plaza. As a kid, I would cut through the backyards with my friends, and we would go down to the old Montessori playground and just hang out and spend hours there playing tag, playing kickball, and just chatting with friends. Now, as an adult, I still live very close to there. I live on Zook Road. When my children, though, were younger, we would often go to the playground and use it because it was small, it was in a very nice neighborhood, and nobody would bother you. Over the years, the playground has remained mostly unchanged and a steady presence in the community. The building and the land was bought in June of 2023. There has been a lot of renovations done to the property, including rebuilding of the boiler, painting, new flooring, removal of lead, new windows throughout the whole building, security cameras inside and out, many plumbing updates, new lighting, a new gate, landscaping, a partial new roof, and new doors. Due to all these improvements, the property value has increased, not only for us, but for the surrounding neighbors. I would like to introduce Otis Thomas, the owner of the Eden Center, who will talk about the project itself.
Good evening. So once again, my name is Otis Thomas. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a Browns fan, don't hold that against me. But I'm happy to be partners with Victor and Marissa. So Victor and I are both in the military. We've served our country. I'm a service-disabled vet. I've been in for 21 years, still serving. I have owned and operated 3 daycare centers in the Northern Ohio area, from the, taking existing buildings, fixing them up, and then maximizing to full capacity. Our goal for this building, as you already heard, is to turn the first floor into a child care center, and the second floor we will plan to lease that space out. We already have a lot of interest in people leasing out the office space, as well as folks bringing their children to us for child care services. As you probably already know, there is a growing need in the community for a child care center, and that's where we want to offer that. We've seen in 2020 that 29% of young children did not have formal daycare. We know that we are a staple to the community, and so to the economy as well. We've had a number of children that have been on waiting lists because there's no child care centers available. So we realized that our purpose and use for this building, definitely there's a huge need. We will also help increase jobs and contribute to the workforce. So our goal is to open a child care center in the fall of 2025, as well as lease out the second floor space as soon as possible to help offset some of those startup expenses. And I will turn it over to my partner, Victor.
Thank you for having me. My name is Victor Whitelock. I've been a resident of Mill Creek now for just over 3 years. I own a business as well here. We do some deliveries in the community. Currently, I have a staff of over 100 people, and that is kind of where a lot of this kind of spurred from. But the purpose of us being here, right, that's what we're really here to talk about. So our proposal is about, our variance request is about the parking spaces out there. And as Marissa stated, the green space around has been wonderful for the community to use as recently as last night. But what we wanted to speak about specifically was how we can meet the requirements that you guys currently have for us, but changing the numbers a little bit in the sense of currently the way that the ordinances are written, we are required to have 110 parking spaces. But we want to recalculate that based upon the accessory to use the accessory to use spaces in the building. The Eden Center is currently calculated at 27,231 square feet, but we want to exclude the areas that are accessory to use per Mill Creek's ordinance 145.11. These areas would include our gymnasium, the stage, the kitchen, storage rooms, bathrooms, hallways, and stairwells, like the spaces that people aren't going to be in regularly. So if we remove some of those, this is what the numbers kind of break down to. So floor 1, our gross square footage calculates to 16,131 feet per our architect drawings, which are actually in the pamphlets that we provided to you. If we were to exclude the areas that are accessory to use,
That would leave us with 5,037 usable square foot. Because this is the daycare floor in the floor one, using the same math, that would actually lead us to needing 17 parking spaces. That's with 8 classrooms, 1 office suite, 1 conference room, 1 kitchenette area. And again, the math on that is 1 space per every 300 square foot. And then floor 2, the gross square footage is currently 11,100 feet, again, per our architect's drawings. Excluding the areas that are, again, accessory to use, we have 6,175 usable square feet. This would lead us to, because it's a separate, not designation, what's the word? Separate use group, would lead us to needing 31 parking spaces. So in total, that would require us to have 48 parking spaces. Currently, we have 43 painted parking spaces in the parking lot. What we are looking to do is actually restripe our parking lot, which would get us up to 79 parking spaces. Again, that's shown in there as Exhibit B. And that would get us well over the math that I just calculated out for what we need, but getting us to that 79 parking spaces for our parking lot without having to interrupt any of the green space out there and take anything away from the community.
So can you give us a breakdown of the first floor space? I know you said it, but I didn't kind of catch it
Absolutely.
entirely. So, you know, the way we're looking at it is there's 6 classroom areas. Is that right on the first floor?
I believe there would be 8 classroom areas.
It'll be 8? Okay. I can't read the writing as far as what each room, the purpose is. So 8 classroom areas. How many, I know there are requirements or stipulations in a daycare setting of how many kids per room and adults and all of that. How does that breakdown work out?
We would have state licensing come out to do the measurements to say how many children we can have per classroom. So we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
We've spelled everything out with the architect as far as the layout, but we would have to make that determination when they come out.
Okay. Just trying to get a good sense of staff because,
Sure.
I'll be honest, we had something like this happen similarly in the not too distant past, and
I can go over ratios. I can talk ratios. I mean,
if you can talk ratios and
Sure.
based upon the square footage here, how many staff you expect to be working there at a given time?
So the ratio for infant is going to be like 1 to 4, 1 to 5. We currently have 1 infant room, and then we have the toddler is going to be 1 to 7. So, and then preschool 1 to 12, and then school age are 1 to 18. So obviously, as we first start, we're going to try to eventually grow into the program and build it, but we won't have that many when we first start off.
So at full capacity, if you grow and you fill out the way you want to fill out per your pro forma, how many staff do you see working on that first floor in the daycare facility total? A projection is fine.
Do we have that written down there? Okay, so I think we had about 60, and that's also with, if we do like a night shift as well.
Okay. And then, so we're talking 60 staff total, which would be how many children?
I can follow up with you with that information if that'll work.
Okay.
Part of the amount of staff we're having, we're looking to do a 7-day-a-week daycare with extended hours as well. As I kind of mentioned, one of my other companies, we operate about 10-hour days. So having the daycare facility being open those extended hours, we won't have 60 staff members at one time.
That's what I'm getting at, is how many staff at one time?
Correct, yeah.
Right, so if you're operating 7 days, you might do 4 days and 3 or 5 and 2, whatever it
Correct.
may be,
So I'm thinking no more than 20 staff members.
at one time.
Correct.
Okay. And then the second floor that you're looking at for office space, again, I'm sorry, I can't make it out completely, but I mean, there's 1, 2.
If I may, I can give you a little bit of my numbers here, and I broke down how many, how many spaces there are.
Yeah,
That helps you guys.
Contractually, you'd have a certain number available to these tenants? You basically have figured out how many parking spaces you would have made available to these tenants? Is that what this is?
No, this was kind of the numbers I gave you, but it explains how many,
to each tenant that is leasing from us. But that's where we were getting at the number, so the ratios themselves say 200, or one space for every 200 square foot. Each of our rooms are roughly 700 square foot, 600 square foot, so that would be 3 spaces to each room.
And it would also depend on the type of business, so like some of the interests we've had have been therapists or accountants, where it might be just one customer at a time. So we're not anticipating like a big crowd at needing parking.
Because the issue you have with daycare, so you have 20 people working there, and that shows, I mean, you're saying requirement of 17 parking spaces. Well, let's just look at it. You have 20 people working, and then, you know, I drive past all these places in the morning, and it's in and out, and I understand it's staggered. It's not all at one time. The real issue, and when you're taking the gymnasium out, and I get that, the real issue that gets created in these things, and where, you know, the phone calls come from, is when you have the Christmas pageant or whatever you do, and you know, all these special events that happen, and then you have 120 kids or however many kids there are going to be, and everyone has 2 grandparents and 2 parents and everything else. You know, how's that handled without creating a strain on the neighborhood?
So we would usually do that after hours, or we would do it like when there is less traffic. And then we would stagger it as well, so that if we're going to do by classroom, so that we can control the traffic flow and the amount of spacing needed.
Okay.
So if we have a graduation or
Whatever special events you have,
exactly,
yeah.
yep.
Sure. And with this drawing that you have here, Matt Puz, have you seen this drawing with the additional parking spaces?
No, I have not.
Okay. Because I don't know if those actually comply with your parking regulations. I mean, it would appear like where the 12 are at versus the 18, you know, you usually need, 25 feet between?
Correct.
That's certainly not, I mean, it does show more spaces, yes, but assuming the spaces are in typical 18-foot depth,
Yeah, they're required to be 9 by 18.
hard to say.
And it does look like a couple of them are actually could be in the right of way. I can't say that for certain, but the one up by the 3, those 2, I would say are in the right of way, and it's like the 2 by the 7, the opposite side.
Sure, on each end.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of proposed hours do you have?
Hours,
Yeah, hours of operation for the daycare,
currently we're looking at from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
okay? And
And that is 7 days.
7 days, and is it correct to assume that there's a variety of drop-offs and pickups? I mean, they're not there for 13 hours?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just
There seems to be a lot of room there in the green space, and you spent some time talking about preserving all of that. Is there space available for expansion on the park without hindering the ball fields and or parks or playgrounds?
Because of like daycare requirements, we have to keep a lot of the green space. They will require, I'm sure you also know this, they do require outside play area for you to, you know, have your license and to maintain your license. We don't own that whole property there. Mill Creek School District owns part of it as well. So we also, you know, it has a lot to do with the fact that of the daycare and what their requirements would be.
Which we don't know at this time the amount of square footage we would need, but, you know, the requirement is to have a shaded area outside where the kids can play on a daily basis. So we would have to submit those measurements when we're ready to present to child care licensing at that time.
So what is the configuration of the property that you do own? It's essentially that corner lot, with the exception of that, well, I guess it's identified as a basketball court, baseball field. That's
So if you look at the picture that I provided you with the parking spaces on it, the grass that is south of the basketball court, so I put a legend down in the bottom corner, but the parts that's close to the actual parking lot, that grass is ours, but then the grass to the east of the basketball court belongs to Mill Creek School District. And then, excuse me, that picture that I have does not have the baseball field on it. But if you look at the baseball field as well, that there's a portion of that kind of flows onto our property as well. So it's a strange cut, the way it all,
Well, it appears the plans for Michael Grab on page SP 100, second page in that set, that there is a line that says site line, I'm assuming, is that the property line?
correct,
That dashed line that goes around the baseball field and basketball hoop?
correct.
Okay.
And so the green space that you're referring to is essentially the space, I don't know the orientation, I'm assuming south of the baseball field?
South of the baseball field, south of the basketball court, it'd be, what is that, Greeley, just off of Greeley Road.
Yeah.
Where the 18 spaces are on the map that I drew, kind of that grass right there.
And then in your updated parking schedule, it looks like you're just using the existing blacktop. Is that correct?
That's accurate.
And is that just in order to preserve the green space for the possible requirements associated with daycare?
That's accurate.
Where is your playground going to be?
Currently, our playground, it would be just north of my map that shows the 17 on the parking spaces. It's between Steratania and Butt Street.
So north of your building,
Correct.
north along Steratini.
Yes, sir.
Matt, is it typical to take out accessory to use space when we're considering parking spaces?
No, the parking requirement is based on gross floor area, which includes the whole area, basically the perimeter of the building.
The outside
Correct.
dimensions?
Yeah.
Is it, I think somebody's already asked it, but is there any way that you could put parking spaces north of the building along Steratania if you needed to?
East of the building?
North,
Behind the hedges,
yeah.
I assume that's the lot you're talking about, behind the hedges?
At that point, we'd be eating into where the current playground exists. There's currently a playground right there. So we'd have to remove the entire playground if we were to talk and move in that direction.
I guess I'm trying to figure out how we got, 20, almost 30 more spaces, 79, from that, from the existing parking space striping.
Currently, not all the lines are striped.
They're not, I'm sorry.
They're not striped. Not all the parking spaces are actually striped out there in our lot.
Okay.
I did go by and I counted myself, before this.
43.
And I would concur with that there are spots that could be parked in that were not striped. So the count by counting actual striped spaces was off, but obviously you've, added 12 here, 7 here, that's 19 alone. So that's a large portion of it, and then some unstriped spaces. So according to what's on the sheet here, Matt, it says we need 110, and now proposed is 79. So it does change that variance amount, correct?
Correct, if the spaces are
31
legal.
shortage instead of 50.
I'm not sure where these 12, came right out of looks like an island there. The 7 or 12 spaces, right directly west of the school.
Yes.
I mean, that looks pretty tight in there for any kind of, I don't know.
So,
I mean, it looks tight for anybody to get in and out, let alone go through.
As drawn, the spaces are to scale of what the requirements are for a parking space. So it is my belief that a vehicle can maneuver in and out of those spaces. Yeah, we toured with the idea of doing angled parking spaces on that side as well.
I guess I'll go back to, do you see a possibility of putting any parking spaces in the green space if you needed to, going north along Steratania behind the bushes?
Well, it doesn't have to be limited to that, just adding more parking.
Well,
I mean, let's not limit where. I mean, you have area behind the basketball court, like right here, Johnny, on my sheet.
Where?
The playground's here, so that's not necessarily the best of areas. I'm talking, there's this whole area.
Yeah, I thought that's where they were putting their playground.
The playground is where the existing playground is along Steratania Road,
Correct.
bordered by Butt Street, Steratania Road, and your northern parking lot, where the existing playground structures are.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's the,
Well, including what we're talking about there, that other space. Do you see that you could do it at some point if you needed to?
We can
Or
definitely,
is this it?
yeah, maybe we can explore that as the census grow. I mean, right now, we don't foresee, like, as far as staffing's concerned, the 20 would be at, like, pretty much at full capacity. So, I mean, I don't foresee, like, starting off us needing nowhere near that many spaces to open and have staffing, parking spaces, and clientele.
I guess our hardship with the whole aspect of doing that is for the project to be successful, we need to preserve that existing green space. The outdoor area for the play, for exploration, for the children, for, physical and mental growth is what is our whole building is about, is being a daycare. And like I said, the licensing mandates it. The green space for the community in itself is a community asset. We invited neighbors over, we talked to them, and a lot would be upset if that space is taken over and turned into parking, because the building has been there so long and they have lived there so long, and they have seen it that way. That has been the green space, that is what they have utilized, that's where they walk their dogs, that's where they play with their kids. So, and they voiced that on Monday night to us, thinking that that's what we were asking for the whole green space to be turned into parking. So that's kind of like where we're at with it, and that's one of the main reasons also, is because we don't want neighbors to be angry, we want them to be happy, so.
Okay. Anything else? Scott?
Proposed uses for the second floor space, you mentioned that there's been some interest. I mean, what are we looking at? Just strictly with office spaces? And how many spaces are on the second floor that we would, I guess, potentially be set up?
there are 11 office spaces on the second floor.
We've had therapists interested, counselors, accountants contacting us. We've also had people that do like evening things like church groups, Bible study groups that would come in the evening, so there would be offset, during the day. There's not that many people coming in the evening. There's just those small groups that might meet there.
People want to do podcasts.
Have talked about renting one of the rooms, yeah. So it's different times, smaller groups, so.
Okay.
How many potential parking spots would that be for 11 spots? That's got to be at least 20, 30 for 11 office spaces.
Well, it would depend on, like we said, on the business that's coming
Well, I
in.
know, I'm just ballparking 2, 3 per office is not a lot.
If we called it 3 per office, that would put, like I said, my calculation is by using the office space itself. If you calculated what the ordinance says in using 1 per every 200 square foot, it would put us at about 3 per office space. And that right there would be counted into the total number of spaces that I had calculated.
How do you look at the parking spaces, both for size and location and right-of-ways and making sure cars have enough to go back and forth?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of your question.
How do you measure that? Or can you measure, and I know we're just seeing this first time here, revised, but
Yeah.
does that have to be looked at?
Yes, section 14597 of the zoning ordinance has the off-street parking layout and design, so it's based on whether you have like 90-degree, 60-degree, 30-degree, or parallel parking, as well as if it's one-way or two-way. So each one has a different requirements.
So that's going to have to be looked at
Correct.
in any event.
To clarify, what I think John's issue is the scale doesn't look like it might fit, but that's not our issue. If we approve 79 spots, they gotta make it work within them. If they don't,
Yeah, we wouldn't be approving this drawing, we'd be approving the 79 spots, a 31 spot variance.
Correct.
If we so chose to do that, that's what we'd be approving, and then they can work out how it gets to 79. Okay. Anything? Jeremy? Okay, thank you. That's all we have for now.
Thank you, guys.
In the audience? Oh, yeah. Do I have anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this? Please come on up, state your name and address.
Alan Swab, 2901 Homer. I live catty corner from Montclair School, okay? And when they first talked about doing this, my only question would have been, if they expanded all of the parking places that you were required or requesting, I enjoy watching the kids from St. Paul's Daycare trooping down the street in their carts and wagons, the younger ones and some of the older ones, and they go over to the playground at Montclair. They enjoy that green space, okay? And I guess when you were talking about expanding the parking places, I was just how are they going to do that without taking a lot of green space where the kids wouldn't be able to play? The basketball court, I see adults, teenagers going there. They utilize the basketball court, and I've seen, strange as it may sound, people training for the Scottish games in Edinburgh, where they bring a 16-foot pole, K-bar, whatever, and they try to throw it. That was fascinating watching that. And I enjoy the green space over there. I'm not sure exactly the township owns, Montclair owns, but it's utilized greatly. And it would be, I enjoy watching, like I say, the kids, the adults, the t-ball, they play different other games. I would hate to see some of the green space lost to make parking places.
can I ask you a question?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask you,
Sure.
as a neighbor and on behalf of the other neighbors, do you foresee any problems with the parking? Do you see that as a hindrance to the neighborhood if the parking becomes a nuisance and there's too many kids there, parents or whatever, cars? Is that a problem for you?
No. I've noticed sometimes when there's T-ball games and they're having their tournaments, they're parking on Butt Street. They're utilizing the parking area at the school, and they're parking on Greeley for the parents, and nothing seems to be a problem. I've never noticed, and Homer Avenue gets a tremendous amount of traffic, and not so much on Reedon Street, not so much on Greeley. I mean, there's traffic, but it's not a problem. I've never seen traffic or a problem where people are, it's not like garage sale parking where this parking is on both sides of the street and they have to jockey to get out. No, I've never seen that kind of problem on that. But it's,
Okay, so is it,
I'm in favor of what he wants to do, except take parking places for the green space on that.
so you're, given the circumstance, would you say that you're in favor or opposed to granting the variance to allow them to have less parking spaces than required?
I'm opposed to having the increase in parking spaces. I'm not sure how, sometimes my hearing and
No
sometimes
problem.
I'm not real quick on that.
So you don't have an issue with granting a variance to let them have less parking than is required?
Oh, no,
Okay.
yeah, no issue.
Okay, thank you, sir.
you.
Is there anyone else? Please come on up.
Hello, my name's Gene Seep. I'm the general contractor doing the work on the building. When we got together and we went out and looked at where we could expand the parking, most likely spot would be having to take out the basketball court because that's already hard surface, and putting parking in the basketball court, and then the parking expanding over from where the existing parking is into the basketball court. And it would take quite a bit of the green space, and then we're going to get into water retention issues to expand the parking there, but to gain, for the community to lose a basketball court, that would gain extra parking spots. But because there is green spots, to answer your question about if they're having a great big program and they have a bunch of the parents there, it'd be no different than when the Greek Fest is having their festival and everyone's parking in the green, in the grass over there off of Westlake Road, and so that there's enough parking for that event. I'm sure that the same situation came about many times when it was a school or when it was Montessori school, that if they had parent-teacher nights and there was quite a few people there, that the people were parking in the grass areas because they're flat, solid grass areas. So it's not that there's not places for the number of people to park, it's just they're not going to be all on pavement at that point, because the only time they would need the extra pavement would be is if there is a large event that is happening.
Yeah. Anyone else? Please come on up.
My name is Linda Swab. I live at 2901 Homer Avenue. My comment would be that I do not want the variance of 110 spaces approved, but I would be glad to see 71 or 79, and that I don't think they need more space right now, and that let them progress at their own speed, and if they would need further variances, they could do it down the line. But right now, I think everything is fine just the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I think there's someone back there.
Hi, my name's Josette Fiorenzo, and I live at 3111 Beeman Street. So not only am I a neighbor to Eden Center, but I'm also a parent and a teacher in Mill Creek, and I fully support the mission of Eden Center. We are in great need for childcare. It is pretty much a, let me see what I want to say. We are so at risk in our community for childcare. And the fact that you are taking this on at the Eden Center, I want to applaud you for that. Just recently, Jefferson Educational had a summit, and it was about the crisis we have for childcare in our area alone and how it impacts not only our economy, but also the economic development for us as a whole. So I think that we need to approve this variance so that we can get the quality childcare that we need. They are also talking about having offices, an office space for possible counselors or outside agencies. We see in schools the mental health issues are on such a rise. So if we can provide any type of services to address that is also something that should be applauded. I think the mission that they are seeking as they are moving forward and trying to overcome a lot of obstacles, I think as a community here, we need to support them. There is such a great need. If you have not read the Jefferson Educational Summit that just recently rolled out, I would highly encourage you. We are at such great risk with childcare, and we really need quality childcare. So I just applaud Eden Center for pursuing that in our area. And as a teacher, I see what we need on a daily basis. I've been teaching for over 27 years, and I've been a Mill Creek resident for over 40 years. We need to provide quality childcare for our future. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. For the third and final appeal, we're going to ask Attorney David Rhodes to step in as solicitor. So this is Appeal 24-14, fast signs for Mill Creek Community Hospital for property located at 5521 Peach Street, seeking variances from sign regulations in the C1 Corridor Commercial District.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Levi Stutzman from the great people of Fast Signs, and we are working with LECOM and on their expansion of the Mill Creek Community Hospital. And the variance we are seeking is in regards to the regulations for signage. And actually, I might have to ask Matt, so when we're seeking the variance, I don't know if we're seeking one variance over the whole code or if we have to define it as multiple variances, because we have multiple signs that we are seeking to get approval to go outside of the current ordinance on.
Yes, there's several variances required for this request, so.
So this is, this would mainly involve the wall signs, the current stipulation of one wall sign per road frontage. Currently, there is one sign, but that it will be removed, and then we're seeking to install 3 different signs facing Peach Street. The way the hospital is oriented, it only has one road frontage, and that would be Peach Street. And so we're seeking to put 2 logos and an emergency sign facing Peach Street. And then we're also seeking a variance for the main monument sign. That would be a blade-style monument sign. For the variance there would be for size as well as the, I think it would just be for size, right?
For the monument sign?
Yeah, for the monument sign, it would just, size would be the main variance we have to,
That's the one with the 80 square foot sign, or?
yes, yeah, that would be, yeah, for the, be on page 3.0.
Yeah.
Provided, so it'd be 160 square feet.
Okay, yeah, so that one requires a variance for the size as well as having an electronic message center over 32 square feet, as well as the height being 16 foot.
So let's break these down into exactly what it is we're looking for, one by one. So
Okay.
how many variances are we actually looking for?
When I reviewed it, so they're proposing, I have 5 wall signs, but it might be 3 if you include them together. With 1 wall sign being permitted, so you need a variance for the number of wall signs, a variance for the number of freestanding signs, a variance.
So, I'm sorry, so the first one, I'm taking some notes here. So the first one is the number of signs. They're proposing 3. Is that what you?
I believe that's what Levi said.
Yeah, if we, I guess, yeah, if we're counting the emergency directional, that's on the interior wall, but the lower canopy wall.
Correct, yes. Unfortunately, the emergency sign doesn't meet the definition for directional because it's on the wall.
Okay.
So the number of wall signs is the variance.
Correct, yes.
And
there
we're
was-
stating, I mean, I'm looking at, so at page, 1.0, there are, you have Lecom Medical Center, you have emergency underneath it, there's another Lecom, and then there's something up top, it appears. It's a little hard to follow on these because there's not like a key plan, but.
Yeah, and so then page 1.2 would be the 4th sign, that is emergency directional.
Okay.
The one in the background, that's the existing senior living center.
So when I'm on 1.0, I'm seeing one up over the top. You're saying that's an existing where it says Lecom?
Yeah, and that's a separate building, that's the.
And how about the one that's in the distant, in the past? So when I'm looking in at Lecom Medical Center and emergency below, there's a Lecom up off on this tower.
Correct, that would be a new one. That's one of the
That's
ones
new.
we're proposing, yeah.
So we have the one on the tower right now, I'm calling it, so I can be clear. We have one above emergency. We have emergency. And then underneath, there's call it a wayfinding emergency with an arrow.
Correct, yeah.
And there's a 5th one?
And I think that would be it. I think that would be, there is an existing one, the Mill Creek Community, but that is coming down.
Okay.
Part of the,
That may have been where the 5th one came from.
Okay. So, I mean, let's just break these down into the different variances. So this one here, I mean, obviously, building signage says Lecom Medical Center. I mean, that, on the surface, that certainly makes sense in emergency to direct people. I mean, and then underneath, it's a sign with an arrow. It's directing people where to go. You know, you have an emergency, you want to be able to see it, right?
correct.
The one in the far removed, we already have one up over the top for the existing nursing center, whatever we're calling it, assisted living. But then there's one back there, removed from the road on the tower portion, it'd be the northernmost portion, I guess we'd call it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's the first variance. Second variance.
So it would be for the main monument sign, that is on page 3.0. And so the variance on that would be for the size, the overall size of the monument sign as well as the size of the electronic message center.
Okay, so it is 160 square feet. And allowed is,
The, let's see here, oh, it's wall sign, 32 square feet,
allowable is 32.
correct.
Okay, and then the third is the message center. And it is how large?
80 square feet?
80 square feet. And allowed is,
32 square feet.
so, 32 would be part of the upper 32 on the monument? I mean, is it 32 and 32, or you'll have 32 for monument and 32 for message center?
No, the way the ordinance is written is that the electronic message center is included in the overall signage
Okay.
for the monument sign.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, freestanding.
And the 80 square foot of the message center is part of the monument sign?
Correct.
The 160.
In the 160, the 80
Yep.
is
Half,
calculated.
yeah, okay. Got it. Is there another variance?
And then there would be for the wayfinding signage, so pages 4 through 7.
Before we continue, for the the freestanding sign, the maximum height's 15 feet, and it's proposed to be 16 foot, 8 inches. So there's a variance for the height as well.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, the freestanding sign,
Yep.
160 square foot sign, the maximum height is permitted at 15 foot, and they're proposing 16 feet, 8 inches. So there's a height variance associated with the freestanding sign.
Okay. So the fifth variance, I guess it would be, is the wayfinding.
Correct. So that would be pages 4 through 7, and I believe the variance on that would be for size of the signage.
For the freestanding signs, the way the directional, the wayfaring signs, because they exceed the 5 square feet, I can't consider them directional signs per the ordinance. However, I have to treat them as freestanding signs, so you're allowed to have one freestanding sign for the property. Each one basically is considered a separate freestanding sign.
If it were less than 5 square feet, it would just be wayfinding, which is allowed?
Correct, yeah, no permit would be required for direction.
Okay, so we're calling it wayfinding, but 5 square feet allowed. And we have a variety here, right? So we have one that's 24 square feet, one that's 32 square feet, one that's 30 square feet, one that's 40 square feet, and then we get into page 8. That's again wall-mounted. That falls back to the first variance that we were talking about.
Yeah, that's, that was included, and those would be wall mounted, but I'm not sure if those would be considered regulatory signs, because those are because the canopy, this driveway and canopy area is for ambulances only, so the main purpose there is to not have.
And honestly, I think those are the missing signs from the five wall signs from
Okay.
earlier. I think that's where I came up with those now, that-
Okay.
looking at it.
We're
Yeah.
going to call the fifth one
So page 8 would be the 5th wall sign.
no entry, ambulance only. Okay, so now let's go back. So variance number 1, number of wall signs. We talked on it briefly. I mean, certain things, I mean, a no entry, ambulance only, I mean, these are, you call them regulatory signs? Is that the term you just used?
Directional, I would
Okay.
call them directional.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Okay.
Regulatory, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no additional allowance for no entry. I think of a drive-through you go by and it says, 8-foot height or whatever it may be. Is that, anything like that allowable if it's a safety measure or, do not enter?
Yeah, unfortunately, the ordinance doesn't necessarily specify. I mean, if it was like a government regulatory sign, that would be permitted, but
Okay.
Commercial, private.
But would you say, say it was a fast food place, right? Or, when they have the generally not factored in with signage?
Generally, those are under 5 square feet, so I'd consider them directional.
Oh, understood, okay, a
Isn't
good
there
point.
some difference between regulatory and directional?
The ordinance doesn't define what a regulatory sign is. It defines what a directional sign is.
Okay, so that's up to, I guess we can discuss what we consider that to be, right? And some of it's directional, we have the tower.
In developing these plans for these signs, was it architecture or your?
So the tower, the logo on the tower, that was part of the original package that was proposed by the architect. The rest of it was with our team and with working with LECOM on, they weren't sure what they were going to name the building at first, and then when we started looking at other locations, we weren't really sure there was really a clear entrance to the hospital, and so that's when we proposed adding the LECOM Medical Center to the large wall facing Peach Street, because kind of the part of the challenge with this is that this is now, they need this to become the clear entrance to the hospital, because you don't want people to enter in at the wellness center, because that's not really, especially in an emergency, that's not really an efficient way to get there. So that was where we wanted to, again, add the emergency letters facing Peach Street, and then add the LECOM Medical Center full name facing Peach Street as well.
Sure, that's the side that faces Peach, I get. I mean, the one back in the tower, I'll be honest, just feels like it's cheaper than a billboard.
Yeah.
To just put the name out there again. That's.
Yeah, I think because
we'll
that one.
discuss, but I mean, I know it's taller.
Yeah, that was
and-
the highest part of the new addition. They wanted, wanted that to be kind of the crown on top. But yeah, especially with right now removing the existing Mill Creek community, they wanted, because they're not quite sure what the plan is for that wall yet, so they wanted to have a high logo on at least that portion of the building until they
Okay.
they decide the direction for the rest of the existing hospital.
Can we speak about the variance number 2 monument sign?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're obviously far away from conformance.
Right.
160 verse 32. I mean, I guess there's 3 issues with it. We've got that, we've got the message center as a component, and then we've got the height. Let's start with the height. I guess you could say the easiest one. Is there in other circumstances, we've seen this, and it's on a down gradient or something like this. I mean, to my eye, the ground is fairly level and flat through here. Is there a reason for the 1'8" variance on that one?
You know, to be honest, I think that was just a matter of designing without the ordinance in mind. It would be an easy adjustment to make.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
that.
the size and message center, the concern we always have with message centers, and there's plenty of them around town that do this, is I'm driving down Peach Street and all of a sudden I, do one of these. I know there are some regulations now on that. Is that correct? To keep the
Brightness.
well, the brightness, but also how quickly the text changes, and are there a whole litany of things now to
Correct.
avoid some of that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That won't be as much of a concern, but which part, it's kind of unclear. I mean, it says message center, but it looks like the part where it says 7 minutes average wait time that's the,
Correct, yeah, everything in that blue area would be the message center.
oh, everything in blue,
Correct, yeah, in that,
including the status where it's LECOM, why wait longer? Is that what it says?
correct, yeah. So everything in the measurement area, the 96 by 120 would be the message center.
Yeah. I mean, I get the average wait time and the reason why that would need to change. I'm seeing LECOM at the bottom, I'm seeing LECOM at the top.
Yeah, and that's just a sample design of what would be. It may not necessarily always have the LECOM logo
Okay.
on it. But, you know, one of the things that LECOM does a good job of is making sure they notify the public of what programs they have, what doctors they have. And I think that's something that I know in this wing, having the behavioral health is something unique to Mill Creek Community Hospital. So that's something that they are going to want to add extra emphasis at this sign on. But this is one of the directions that LECOM would like to go with advertising what the wait time is there. You see in more larger markets, that's a very common thing for advertising, for emergency rooms to advertise.
Okay.
And so that's the direction they'd like to go with this.
So when we talk about the monument overall square footage, the part where, at the bottom, the white part, which says LECOM Medical Center, just a thought on that. I mean, is the 160 comprise the whole entire sign?
Correct, that would be the entire sign.
So the static white portion, if that were the same material as the building and it had letters applied to it, that would not all be considered sign, or would it?
The way the ordinance is written is that if it's like a word or logo, that would be considered a sign. So if there's no words or logo, although it is technically part of the monument sign, so. But I see where you're going, is like it's.
Yeah, if that were white stone or whatever is on this building up to the red portion, and they just stuck LECOM letters on there, is that the same thing? I'm just trying to see, I mean, because it says it's 160 feet, but I don't know that it necessarily really is the full 160.
Yeah, if, the ordinance does allow, instead of doing a box, you can do just the individual letters. So if they were to just have like individual letters, then we would only look at the individual letters in that area.
Okay. Just trying to think about some workarounds so it's not so,
Can that be fit to conform without a whole lot of undue stress and strain on LECOM?
As far as the overall monument conforming to the 32 square feet, I mean, everything's possible, but for the main entrance of a hospital, I don't know if 32 square feet would be quite enough to really identify a main entrance of a hospital. You know, one of the directions we went with this was in mimicking of other major hospitals, and so that's the reason for going with this style. Great artist steal, so we stole
yeah,
it.
and I'm trying to find some workaround, but
Right.
when we're asking for a 500% delta, you know, it's a lot. So I'm trying to see if there's a medium in here where, you know, we
Right.
kind of get to a similar end.
Yeah.
The directional wayfinding, I mean, I understand, obviously, we are limited, 5 square feet.
And part of the I guess burden of having such a small sign at that main entrance, there is another driveway entrance. I believe it's on the map on page. Sorry. It's on here. I think it's on page 2. That details, yeah. So the second driveway that has signs 7A and 7B labeled at it, that is a emergency vehicles only entrance. And so part of the main benefit of having such a large sign at the main entrance for the public to pull in is that people will naturally be more drawn to that entrance. So that's kind of the other, I guess, burden that conforming to the ordinance would put on the property.
Yeah. You'd think the 5 directional wayfinding and the 5 building signs and all of that would,
Well, but that would be for people coming off of Peach Street.
oh, I know.
Yeah.
You know, even the ambulance entrance only is 40 square feet, you know.
How did you determine the size, the proper size?
partially going off of comparable hospitals. If you look at some of UPMC's signs, they have the similar blade style. And then in Cleveland University hospitals, they have similar blade style. So we wanted to make sure that line of sight coming off of Peach Street was going to be correct, that the emergency as well as the LECOM logo would be at a proper eye height, and then having the digital message center on top kind of adds a little bit more impact to someone coming up on it on Peach Street.
So just what you felt would work the best.
Yeah, and just kind of comparable verticals, comparable use cases.
Do you see any opportunity to reduce any of these signs as we started to talk here?
On the main sign, I think we can definitely conform to the height requirement. I don't see that being an issue. But as far as the other size requirements, for the directional, definitely not. I don't think it's feasible to go down to 5 square feet, without causing a lot of frustrated drivers pulling into the hospital. And then on the main sign, like I said, it needs to be clearly identified that it's the main entrance of the entire campus, really.
Anything else, Joe?
No. And the quantity and the locations, that's the minimal.
That's the
number of signs that you're proposing, right?
Yeah, it's partially based on when does a driver have a choice. If they can go right or left, we want to make sure we have a sign there to direct them which way they should go. Because if they're coming in to drop someone off, they need to go pull into the driveway and go to the right side of the first island in the parking lot. And then if they're going to short-term parking, they need to go to the left. So that's part of what plays into deciding where wayfinding signs go. You just have to kind of, in your mind, walk through the process of driving for someone first time pulling into the property. What questions are they going to have, and where do they need to go based on who they are?
Okay.
Scott?
Maybe just one clarification from you, Matt. So
Yes.
with that directional sign, is our issue, I think I heard you say that because of the size, it's considered its own freestanding sign. And so is the variance request to have multiple freestanding signs on one parcel, or is it a size for that second freestanding sign?
It's for the number of signs. Yeah, I believe the rest of the signs fall under the 32 square feet.
So in this case, we have two freestanding signs being proposed. That would be the monument and then this separate directional.
4 directional. So it could be that, or could it be a variance to the 5 square foot of a directional wayfinding sign?
Yes, you could look at it like that as well, so. Both are, and to the same
number
product.
of variances
Yeah.
needed.
It's important to me the way I look at it, because if I increase the size of a wayfinding sign, maybe to these numbers, maybe, somewhere in there, that's wayfinding. If I allow 2 signs, I'm allowing another, well, I guess maximum sign size is 32 square feet. So technically, you'd almost need another variance. The one is 40 square feet, so it doesn't even comply with the freestanding sign.
There's 2 types of freestanding signs under the ordinance. So there's a monument sign, which allows it to go up to 50 square feet, but you're capped at 8 feet in height. The other one would be a freestanding sign where it's capped at 15 feet in height. There's actually a 7-foot clearance required for that as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, that one sign you could consider a monument because it's under, I believe it's under the 8 feet, so it's kind of under it meets that requirement. It's just now you have more than one.
You're allowed a monument and a freestanding?
No, you're allowed one or the other.
Okay.
But there's two different defined freestanding signs, with one being called freestanding, the other being called monument.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I don't think we have anything else at this time for you. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this? Township has. Can I ask you a question?
Matthew Waldinger, 3608 West 26th Street, Director of Planning and Development.
So I guess my question overarching is that, you know, we recently went through and redid our ordinance, which obviously LECOM's been there for a really long time, you know what I mean? I feel like my lifetime mostly. Knowing that was there and knowing that the township has no opposition, I'm unclear, you know what I mean? Is it, well, maybe we didn't think through that in the ordinance or whatever it is. I would think that if it's this far off the ordinance, I assumed that the township may have some opposition, so I'm
Yeah, there was none from the board, you know, as far as the request that's in front of you. You're not wrong that it is pretty far out from the sign regulations in general, you know, the signage. It's hard to write a regulation that covers every single, you know, possible outcome, and, you know, having a hospital. Because the hospital does not have its own zoning district, you know, it falls into an existing zoning district, and so you can't make special regulations as far as signs, but it's only for, you know, certain things, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it is difficult to fine tune. I don't disagree, though, that it is they are exceeding our ordinance in quite a few different ways, and there may be some possibility to kind of compromise and come to something that's a little more reasonable.
Okay. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Again, no one in the audience? Okay, we're going to take a recess. Again, you're welcome to stay and wait for our decision if we have one tonight, or you can reach out to the township tomorrow after 8:30. Thank you. Okay, let the record show we reconvened at 8:13. Appeal number 24-12. Ellen and Thomas Kushar, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the application for the permit.
Approve the variance.
Approve the variance, sorry.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 24-13, Eden Center LLC. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance in part based on the 79 spaces that were presented, which would then represent basically a 31 space variance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 24-14, Fast Signs for Mill Creek Community Hospital. Do I have a motion?
All right, in 3 parts. We're going to approve the variance request of the number of wall signs with the exception of 1.3. So therefore, reducing the number of wall spaces or wall signs by that one. Part 2, the monument size. We are not approving the height variance of request for 16.8. We're fine with the 15-foot ordinance as the ordinance is stated. With the reduction, therefore, we are granting a square footage of 144 square feet will be allowable. And we are therefore denying the request of, what was the square footage?
We're approving it at 144.
We're approving it at 144, denying as it was presented. Third would be the message center, and we're approving the variance to the allowable max 80. Component number 3 is the wayfind variance. We are recommending approval of the variance granted for the size of the 6 directional signs as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved.